Welcome to the Anderson and Lindhardt Show. This is episode 22. Today we are joined by our good friend Owen Gubler. Owen is a tremendous guy who loves God and his country. We talk with him about his business, Gubler Made Bed Swings, link in description, and dig into some personal growth principles such as hard work, discipline, trusting in God, and how to overcome overwhelm/intimidation. Thank you for all your support, and God bless.
All right, welcome back, Anderson and Lindhardt Nation. We're back for episode 22. That's pretty crazy. We're starting to get up there into the 20s, and like we talked about with Jackson and Maddie, pretty soon we'll be at 50 and be super rich and famous. And part of the reason is going to be because of this episode is going viral because we got our boy Owen Gubler. What's up, Owen?
What's up? What's up?
Dude, it's good to
Out
see
here
you.
from Alpine, Utah.
Oh, nice, man. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you where you're living right now. So Alpine, there's my answer.
Yep, Alpine, Utah.
Cool,
Yes,
man. Yeah, so we're excited to have Owen here. We obviously served with him in Virginia. So we just want to sit down with him and get to know him a little bit, talk about some maybe some more sports principles. Owen is an athlete. Also
athlete.
Straight up, man. And you know, also maybe some entrepreneurial principles and things like that. But yeah, man, so just tell us a little bit about, like, from you. How old are you right now? 21 too?
21.
Cool. So like Owen, from, you know, growing up as a kid, what did he like to do? High school, how did he start to mature? And then all the way, you know, till now.
Yeah. Like what Reiss said, sports has always been like a huge part of my life. From crazy little, just one of my best friend's dads was the rugby coach. And so we started playing as young as you could play. We were playing rugby barefoot, just two-hand touch until we got old enough to start tackling, and fell in love with the game there. Kept playing over and over and over, all the way throughout high school. Played other sports too, football a little bit, soccer, stuff like that. But really, rugby was the strongest drive. Just the sense of brotherhood I got from rugby was unlike any other team I was a part of. And plus, I loved to hit people. I thought that was a blast. I loved running with the ball. Just had all the aspects that I loved without all the structure that some of these other sports have, like having to do certain things one way. It's just like once kickoff happens, I don't know if you can say this over the podcast, but smear the queer. Just with a little bit of rules.
Yeah.
And so I absolutely just loved it. You just got to go free for all, have a blast with your buddies. Like, really gives you a good chance to let all the momentum flow, and like really you can see who you really mesh with. You just get in sync with each other. Just a lot more room to play your own way in your own style, and I really like that. So rugby's been a huge part of what I've done. But my family's big on like do it yourselfers. So the Gubler way is we never hire anything out. Like if there's a chance that we can do it, then the Gublers are getting her done, and we're saving the buck. We're not hiring somebody to come out there and do it. So that leads me a ton to what I'm doing right now as my career. But
Cool. And so just to touch on your mission just briefly, who trained you as a missionary?
So it was this guy, Carter Anderson. He's a legend. You guys probably heard of him.
Dude, I've never heard of him.
No, he was a phenomenal trainer, man. Like, taught me everything I know.
No, it's kind of cool because one of the things that I do for my personal study, I'll go back and read my mission journals, and right now I'm in my like second journal or whatever, just going back through and reading it, and right now it's mine and Elder Gubler's transfer 3 years ago, you know, during this time period. So he was a brand new missionary. I'd been out for like 6-ish months or whatever, and we were just making things happen, and we were in the Chancellor Ward, so like Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania, Virginia. So we were making it happen, having a good time. So it's kind of crazy. That was 3 years ago.
Yeah, today would have been my 9th day in the mission field.
That's
Dang,
crazy.
dude. Wow.
3 years ago.
Yeah, man, that's wild. That's wild. But yeah, Virginia is kind of like a brotherhood for us, you know, being all out there. That's where when the missions merged, that's when I met Owen. He was from Richmond, I was from the Chesapeake. But uh you and who like Elder Tanavasa and a few other guys served in downtown Richmond on VCU's campus, and Carter and I were just north of that, just in the suburbs of Richmond. So we got to hang out a lot and go on a lot of exchanges and whatnot. And I just remember some good times, man, like chilling in the little branch building in downtown Richmond and whatnot. And so, yeah, man, good memories. Time goes by fast.
Oh, totally.
So
For
I
sure.
have a question pertaining to your mission, but like kind of because I, at least from what I can remember, like a mission was kind of always in the plans for you. So it wasn't like necessarily like, you know, like some people, it's like a huge decision to go on a mission. Like for me, it was just kind of like, yeah, it's like just kind of what you do type of deal. Like we both, me and Owen grew up like 5-10 minutes from each other, and we never met, which is kind of crazy. But um, anyways, I
We
was just
drove
kind
we
of,
drove past each other.
we
We
did
had
drive,
to. We
yeah.
had
Oh,
to.
for sure, man.
At some point, you're just like, dude, who's that weird white kid that's like 6'4" and 120 pounds
The sweet shoes.
with sweet shoes,
Yeah.
but size 9.5 feet, so he's got teeny feet. But anyway, I was just wondering kind of how your mission, like, because obviously you come home and a lot of things have changed, and a lot of like within yourself or just the environment that you're living in. Kind of how did your mission prepare you for a lot of the changes and opportunities that have come um, into your life since being home?
Um, I mean, it's like a hard adjustment coming home, obviously, but I think something that helped a ton, that the mission helped me with getting home, is just how constantly your environment changes on your mission. Like, could be every 6 weeks, every 3 months, typically somewhere around there. Your environment changes, and you have to just learn to adapt with a whole new set of people. There's almost nobody that you know really in your new area. And so coming home, yes, your situation, your living place and stuff is where you grew up for the most part. And you recognize your family, your friends and stuff like that. But it kind of feels like a whole new environment, as your whole entire being is like different. You've grown up so much, you've learned so much. Your whole mentality and perspective on life has completely changed. And now you're placed into this old environment where either you're going to have to adapt back to your old ways, or you're going to have to morph your old environment to fit who you are now in a productive and growing way. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's what all those transfers really helped me to do that.
Dang. Yeah, well said. That's like perfectly articulated, because I think
Yeah.
most return missionaries have experienced that, but there's like we're not able to put it into words. And I think you just said it all for a lot of missionaries. It's really true. You have that decision when you come home. Am I gonna just kind of revert back to the old me and to the old environment, and maybe still uphold a somewhat higher standard of living than when I was in high school, but still kind of, or am I gonna impose my will, and use the things that I learned? And so I guess that moves us perfectly into what you're doing right now with your business. So I don't know much about it. I mean, I see your Instagram posts, and I think the things y'all are building, man, those are beautiful. But yeah, how did that kind of start? Like, has this been, a hobby that you liked to do growing up, or yeah? So just give us a little background of like what you're doing and why you're doing it. I want to know the why, like if it's like a deep passion or if it's just something fun. But yeah, man. So what's going on over there in Gubler Town?
Yeah, over here in Gubler Town. No, but I mean, I grew up being super hands-on. My dad grew up on a farm, and you fix everything or you do without it.
Yeah.
There's
Oh, can I?
go? Yeah, go ahead.
So I just had a story pop into my head just real fast. We were in Fredericksburg. The mission president and his wife, so President and Sister Drouet, were doing interviews, and I think it might have been me and Carter, maybe. I think Jackson was with me for sure, though. But anyways, we were up there. Owen was there with his companion, and some lady was in the church parking lot. It was pretty cold and it was raining outside, and her car had something broken with it. I can't remember, something near the engine block or whatever. But we went out there just to see if she was okay, and she was waiting for somebody to come, and Owen was like, oh, I know how to fix that, like, some mechanical problem in the car. So popped the hood, and Owen took his suit coat off, and he handed it to me, and he got his elbows in there like elbow deep. She had a few like ratchets and stuff, but I just remember that it was like I was just standing there like freezing, and Owen's just in there, grease all over his arms, like helping this random lady fix her car. I don't know if you remember what was wrong with it, but
I can't remember.
yeah, something
Did he
kind of
fix it?
small. Um,
We
I don't
got
know. I
we
think
got the part off,
yeah,
and she needed the new part.
yeah.
So
The new part
we
was
did all
like
that we could.
yeah, he did everything he could, which is just what you said. So I just want people to know, like, this dude is practicing what he preaches, like, hands down. I've seen it firsthand.
Well, appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah, that was funny. I was late to my interview, and we
Yeah,
just kind of moved on without me, the mission president, until I was done with
Yeah.
the car.
yeah, that's right.
The grease kept my arms warm. It's like a nice bear grease where it's just good insulator.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, going back to the question,
hmm
um, what was the question?
Question is just about like your business right now, and
Oh yeah, that's right.
you're talking about how you've always kind of been hands on and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. So my dad grew up on a farm and taught us the way that like a country guy does. You can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy.
Yeah.
And so he taught us from an early age that you just start learning how things work. And so me and all my siblings have always kind of had that little like curiosity with when we get like a new toy. Pretty soon we're taking it apart, and figuring out how that toy works. And then if we are able to fix it and put it back together, that's a different story. But we
Yeah.
at least had that start to see where things are going. And so early on, man, we were building barns for our horses. Like we were always building all these kinds of things. And then, long story short, I got home from my mission and I was working at IFA, just as like a farm store, and I wasn't making ends meet with like the money, like getting paid like $10 an hour. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is not gonna work for college, for like getting married in the future. I was like, all these things that I had on my list, $10 wasn't gonna cut it. And so while I was on my mission, my parents built this big bed swing on our front porch, and they had people all the time like driving past their house. Then they slow down and they're like looking at it, and then they go and they speed up again. Or some would even come as far as knocking on our door and asking like where we got it and stuff. My dad's like, yeah, we just built it. And so I was kind of like in this weird spot where I was like, man, I got a job right now, but I'm not making the money that I need to make. But I've got no openings either for another opportunity to take. And then with all this interest in the beds thing, I was like, man, I love woodworking. I love working by myself. I was like, I got the drive and the motivation just to get out there every day and make stuff happen. And so I took a chance and quit my job and started building these bed swings, and just hoped that there'd be the customers that would actually want it with enough interest, people stopping. Just hope that I was able to actually get out there and sell them. So I started selling them, started advertising on KSL Marketplace and Facebook Marketplace, and I was crazy packed. I was booked. Like people would ask me for a swing, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm about 3-4 months out right now before I can get you one. And so then it turned a lot of people away being that far out, but there was nothing I could do as one man show.
Right.
And so I've just done that. This year I started branching out and doing like city day fairs kind of stuff, like Alpine days, Harriman town days, like all that kind of stuff. And I had a custom trailer built up in Ogden. My business partner, someone that I got connected with last year, built pergolas. So he built a pergola on top of the trailer, and
What
I
is a
built one of my
pergola?
swings. It's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like
Okay.
it's like a wooden
look,
pavilion, but it
Yeah.
has like rather than a complete roof, it just has like the rafters going across. A lot of times you'll see like vines and stuff winning all up and through it.
Dang,
But
that's
anyways,
cool.
so we pulled out the shows, and now we're even more packed because we're still advertising through our last year's means. But now we also have these shows where people get to come and actually see it and fall in love with it. So that's how I got started doing it, and I love it. It's super customizable, so if other people love it, and it just has been awesome so far. And anything hands-on related, I can just go for it. Yep. Boom. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Let
sir.
me pull up some of your stuff. Let's stop. We don't need to show off the other guy's stuff.
I'll show you guys the trailer that I'm
Okay.
talking about.
Yeah, man.
So it's Gubler's Made Swings, right?
Made bed swings. Yeah. So this is the trailer. Ooh, my camera.
Dang,
That's a
that's
bad glare,
sweet.
but
No, that's really cool though.
so that's the pergola.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that, but you guys can kind of see it.
Right.
And yeah, everybody that sees it like, I just want this setup. Like, bring the pergola, bring the bed swing. I just want that exact thing. So, but yeah, it's been really good.
So
There is days where it's crazy tough to just get myself motivated to get going,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of just like with any goal. I mean, let me ask you guys, how do you guys, for your personal goals, how do you guys stay motivated on something where it's like just you? There's nobody else that you're accountable towards that thing, but it all depends on you, rides or dies with you.
I feel like this is been the conversation of like 3 or 4 of like, I mean, every time me and Reese talk, this is what we at least I'm talking to him about it, because I think Reese is a master, or at least trying to learn how to master this skill. And I think we all try and master and struggle with this skill, because it's like, I don't know, it's hard when it's just you to sometimes to motivate. And so I was actually going to ask Reese about this before, and I totally forgot until now. But in the Jordan Peterson book, I think the principle, I don't know which one it was, but the one where it talks about taking care of yourself, like you would take care. Could you expound on that? Because I think, like, I obviously can explain it way better to me, but I think that would be like a good thing to kind of explain or expound on.
Yeah, I believe it's rule 2 in the first book. So 12 rules for life right there. Shout out Jordan Peterson. Everyone should go buy that book and read it, and then buy his
Not a
second one and
sponsor
read it.
yet.
Yeah, not a Oh, by the way, we're gonna put Owen's Instagram in the description, as well as his bed swings in the description too. So go check those out. They're sweet.
Giddy up.
Put a discount code A and sign L for 1% off.
For 0%
we'll
off,
take
but
it.
you get a firm handshake from Owen himself. But anyways,
We'll
yeah.
do
So
$100 off. $100 off.
oh, okay, yeah. Boom, $100
go.
off. Just say that Reiss and Carter sent you. Go to Owen, say Reiss and Carter sent me to buy a bed swing. Boom, $100 off. We got you.
Boom.
Easy. Anyway, so yeah, rule 2 in that book is I think it's something like treat yourself like somebody you are responsible for caring for. And so I automatically think of, if somebody was ill, like how would I be taking care of them? And that's how I first started thinking about it. But then I was like, well, like, how would I take care of my son, say, or my daughter? Like, I wouldn't feed them a bunch of crappy food and let them stay up all night and let them binge watch YouTube all day, and I wouldn't let them get away with not working, putting in work and things like that. So I'm like, so why would I ever let myself get away with stuff like that if I really care about myself? Wow. And so that's how I started viewing it. And that's been a long process, but when I read that book last summer. When I read that rule, that's when it kind of came together. Like, how when you kind of know something subliminally, and then someday someone, kind of like what you just said about the mission experience, then all of a sudden you're like, those are the words I've been looking for. Yeah. That's how it felt like. And so the main thing that helped me with has been health. So eating the best way I know how, and then exercising and working out my body. And so to answer your original question, it goes right along with this. But yeah, so I was just talking to my boss yesterday about this, but this thing has helped me so much, specifically with going to the gym every morning right now. I mean, everyone's seeing that I'm going to the gym every morning, and it certainly hasn't been easy. I mean, last night, Riley and I got to bed a little bit later, and I was so tired this morning, but I had enough energy to go to the gym. It's not like I was completely exhausted. So I'm like, hey, it's not a good enough excuse. Like, we're going. And what's helped me, and this is what I talked with my boss about, is just saying to myself, I just got to go to the gym today. That's it. And this, like, has been helping me a lot. And it doesn't make it easier. It just makes it like manageable. So it's like, all right, and you can break it down into tiny pieces. So like you can say like, all right, I just got to show up to the gym today, just today. That's it. Not for the whole year, not 6 days a week for 52 weeks, just today. And then once you get there, all right, I just got to do 15 bicep curls with the 30-pound dumbbells or something like that. Like you just start breaking it down. And with my job right now, like, I mean, yeah, I like sales. I like speaking with people, but I just, it's so easy to get burnt out in sales jobs where you're not like super passionate about the,
Yeah.
the thing you're selling. So my sales job, it's like, it's great. We're helping funeral directors take care of their technology needs. Like, cool. But I just don't have a passion for it. So I just feel pretty burnt out. And so one thing I started doing is I'm like, all right, I just got to make 5 more calls. And then after I make 5, I might take a breather, walk around, go to the bathroom, and be like, all right, just got to make 5 more. And soon enough, I keep doing that. And all of a sudden I've made 50 or 45. Like yesterday and today, I made 45 calls each day. And it's like, whoa, now I have 45 all of a sudden. Or it's like with going to the gym, it's like, just got to do it today. And time goes by a lot faster than you think it does. And so if you just start doing these things, like almost forcing yourself to do it, before you know it, it's going to be like, dang, it's been 2 months and I've been to the gym every day.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, if you're like, I'll go tomorrow. Okay, no, I'll just go tomorrow. I'll go in a couple days. Then before you know it, it's been 6 months and you're eating the same amount of sugar as you were, or you haven't been to the gym at all, or you haven't said a prayer in that long. And so that's been helping me a lot. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't make it easy. It just makes it manageable. So it kind of takes like, it looks like a huge wall you're looking at. You're like, how the freak am I going to overcome this? And then it just kind of takes it to like, you just have to step up a curb, and then you just have to step up another curb, and then another curb, and then before you know it, you're over the wall. So that's been helping me a ton lately.
I would ask you the same question. What have been some of the things you've done to try and, motivate because obviously like that's pretty self-motivated to like quit your own job and start something. And I think a lot of people, everyone dreams about like quitting their job and doing their own thing, but you like actually did it and are doing it. So like what have been some of like how have you motivated yourself or held yourself accountable to keep pushing?
Yeah. Well, like Reiss said, it's definitely not easy. Like, there's a lot of days where I'm like, man, I don't even want to go out into the shop today. Like, I feel like I've been doing the same thing over and over every week. It's another bed swing, another bed swing, another bed swing. And it gets hard. But a big reason that I'm able to keep going forward with it is because I honestly love the aspect that if I don't do it, it fails. And that if I do it, then it works and it succeeds. Or I at least gave it my best shot, Like, I think one of my biggest motivators is I don't want to go to college. And if I'm doing this, I don't have to.
Yeah.
And so
You're
that
talking
like
to
pushes,
the right guys.
yeah, it pushes me like hard just to run with myself and let myself be a kind of my own motivation to keep pushing forward and going, and that it's all fueled by me kind of thing. Because if I'm gonna take a bet on anybody, I want it to be on myself because I trust myself. And then it's not like, oh, they just didn't put in enough effort, that's why I failed. It's like, no, I didn't put in enough effort, that's why I failed. Or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude. And I think that Jackson and us were talking about this, but building trust with yourself it's paramount. And I think it starts with little things, like but you just got to start doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And that means you have to take a really hard look at yourself and really be careful at what commitments you make with yourself and be like, am I really going to do this? And you need to stretch yourself. Like you need to be doing things that are gonna, but you don't want to, when you're starting to build trust with yourself, if you're starting from a really low point, which I know a lot of people are, you don't want to just be like, all right, I'm going to go to the gym every day for 2 months straight. Like, don't start there, be like, I'm going to go twice this week. And then once you do that, you're like, wow, I did what I said I will do. And it's almost like you're bargaining with your future self. And so this is an idea that Jordan Peterson teaches too, where it's like humans, we started to learn how to bargain with the future, and more specifically with our future self. So it's like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice 6, 7, 8 hours today and put in a lot of work because I know it's going to benefit me, but in the future. And so it's this idea of delayed gratification, and it's a really deep idea, but it all starts with building trust with yourself, because then you can count on yourself like that and be like, man, like I'm responsible for this. And if I don't do it, then there's no one to blame but me. And I think that's daunting for some people, but it's something you build up to. It's a character trait that you build up to, small and simple. But I think that's really cool, dude. Really admirable.
Don't just talk about it, be about it.
That's right. For sure. I gotta put that on my workout story one of these days.
That was a lesson I learned from my mission from you guys up there. So really cool. They taught me that.
And no one ever said it would be easy, but they said it would be worth it.
Worth it.
Yeah,
that was like what got me and other Gubler through our transfer together. We're just like grinding. It's like hot as balls outside. I'm hot. It's just really hot outside, and we're just sweating.
President Gervais gonna listen.
He would agree with me that it's that hot sometimes, but
yeah,
just
I think that's fair.
To maybe anyways, but he would like, we would just like talk about that principle of that these things aren't going to come easy, but that as we continue to like push ourselves, that it's going to be worth it. And I think trying to, like, we've talked a lot about vision and a lot about aim in our last few episodes, and I think having that vision for your life, having those goals in your life, like it really does push yourself to make those hard moments worth it, because you're like for me, like working out, like we've talked a lot about this, but when you're working out and exercising, you're not going to see any instant gratification outside of maybe like an arm pump or a leg pump or something, and that's like stays for maybe 10-15 minutes or whatever, and then it's gone. But in 3 months from now or 4 months from now, you could have a six pack, or you could have bigger biceps, or was it you that talked about the tiger stripes? Yeah, on your chest. Like you could have those in 6 months, but you're not going to see those that day working out. And so I think that's pretty cool. How have you kind of seen that those phrases, not be about it? What was it?
Don't just talk about
Don't
it.
just talk about it, be about
it. Yeah.
Like that phrase, how have you seen that be implemented into your business?
Well, I mean, for me, I talk a lot about self-growth, and like I talk a ton about how powerful the mind is, and how if you like thinking about it, then just if you can think about it and imagine it, then there's an opportunity for you to be that and to get there. And it all just starts with that mind. And like those sayings and those quotes and stuff are very similarly tuned to that same exact stuff.
Yeah.
Where like, don't just talk about it, but be about it. If you're talking about it, you've already thought about it. You've gone a step further, and now you're talking to other people about it. Even if it's just talking to yourself about it, you're farther down that line than just the thought process. And now the next step is to be about it then. And even if you can't like 100% be about it right away, you can at least start doing things to start being about it. And down the line from doing those small and simple things, you'll eventually one day be what you once talked about. But also with my whole business and with anything in life, I'm a huge believer in like when a door's open to you, that you just got to take off and run through it. And I don't mean like, it's different than like FOMO, right? Than just because there's an opportunity, like fear of missing out, like what it could be. I think it's different than that. I think it's more that like once an opportunity presents itself, at the very least, start down that path, because God's going to tell you if it's right or wrong right away. But it's hard to skip that opportunity and later down the road be like, oh yeah, I should have went down like that road. It's a lot harder than if you went down that road, saw what it's like, got a little taste for it, and you're like, yeah, this is the right path. You at least know what the path presents and what it brings. And so with this bed swing company that I started, the opportunity arose where I already had the interest. I've seen the interest already. I had the model on my front porch, and I was like, this is just something I got to see what happens with. I got to take that bet on myself, try it out, and just run with it. And yeah, I've got no regrets for doing it. And if the next thing comes along, another door opens where it presents better opportunities, better growth, and a better lifestyle, then you bet I'm gonna take it. So
Yeah, man. I love that principle, of this Elder Holland gave a talk about that where he was with his son and they were I don't remember the story very well, but they were out in the desert somewhere and they took came to a fork in the road, and one of them led back to the highway, and they chose one of the roads, and it went, if I remember right, like well over a mile. Like it was
yeah,
a decent drive out there, and then it was a dead end. And that was an opportunity, in Elder Holland's words, to be able to teach his son a really valuable principle, and that is, like, go with your gut. This is kind of in my words, but go with your gut, and if it ends up being a dead end, at least you know that that's not it. That's not the correct path. And I think the people who are constantly, like, if this is their path to who they could become, and they're taking these roads and these opportunities, and they have to come back and go and come back and go, those people are going to end up being a lot closer to their full potential at the end of their lives than the people who are too scared to even go off on these little paths, if that makes sense. um so yeah, I think that's really, really great. And I think you'll look back and just even just 10 years and be like, wow, if I didn't take those little doors, even if they only lasted a few years, or maybe they last a lifetime, but it doesn't matter. It's going to develop you in some way that if
exactly.
you didn't do it, you wouldn't have, some part of your character wouldn't have been developed the way it is now. So, dude, you're the man. Like,
No,
props to you, bro.
appreciate it.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. I really
I
mean it.
would. I like. I think going back. I think that video or whatever is like called "Wrong Roads." I can't remember if that's like the name of it or not.
Bro, we'll
Anyways,
put the
but
link in the description.
put the link
I'm
in the
trying to get used to
bio.
that
Yeah.
because it's like I gotta actually have stuff in the description, bro.
But I loved how he talked about one of the things of like him going down the wrong road was that he could have full confidence then moving forward in his next decision. And I think, like you said, the people that aren't, maybe taking chances or looking for ways to continue to grow, they don't have, full. I don't know if anyone ever has full confidence in a decision, like 100% no doubts, like I think to some extent everyone has a little bit of doubts creep in, but when you're able to have like that confidence because you've seen, all right, I tried this route, I tried this route, I know that this is the right route, you can be a lot more effective because you can just tunnel all of your energy and all your focus into that instead of just being like, oh, okay, like I'm not really sure about this, so I'm going to go like 60% in because I'm not really sure how it's going to work out. And so I kind of like how you guys are talking about, like, you're able to propel yourself forward by exploring a lot of opportunities and a lot of options so that when you figure out what you're supposed to be doing, you can just like kind of go all in and you're going to be a whole lot more effective doing that. That's why I like being a missionary. Everything else is just taken away. You don't really choose, but you like go all in on that and you're able to really refine your, not only yourself, but like yourself as a missionary, being able to kind of do missionary work at a very high level.
Yeah, that brings up like an interesting aspect of all of this, like being all in. Like you can be going along that path, like Reiss was saying, and you can start at the very beginning taking these offshoots, but if you're not all in to see where they lead and like let them potentially be your path, then you're never going to get out of them what you need to get. Even if they end up being the wrong way, you're at least we're all in, and you learned everything that you should have learned by going down that path. And now you know for sure that that's not the right path, and you can get back on where you need to be going. But if you only were in like 10% going down that path, you'll never get any of the benefits that would have came or could come from that path. And you might not even ever figure out if it is the wrong path because you were never 100% in. And now you're kind of just stagnant, 1 foot in one area, 1 foot in another area. So I think that's like a really good point. Just whatever you're doing, even if you're not sure about it, once you make a decision, be all in and don't teeter back and forth because you won't get anywhere.
Yeah. And I know people will ask, well, how do you do that? And it's always the answer that they don't want to hear. And it's, you just decide. And I honestly think, like, the more I think, I'm like, are there like tactics? And it's like, no, it really comes down to you. Are you going to decide? And it's a choice, you know, and agency is powerful. And when you actually decide, like, you feel that, you know, like if you actually decide, like, I'm going to go into the shop today and finish this bed I'm working on, like, it's going to happen, you know, it's going to happen. And you may do it reluctantly and kind of like grudgingly drag yourself there, but you know, you're going to do it. Or like when I say to myself, I make sure my alarm's set every night, and I'm like, okay, like, I'm not, like, I'm getting up at 5 and I have completely decided. And what the word decide means, I think if you break it down into, who knows, you know, Greek, Latin, wherever the words come from, it means
Right,
to,
the person at the beginning of sacrament meeting, I Googled what the meaning of
Yeah,
faith
so
is,
I
and this is the
Googled,
definition.
This is the Webster Merriam 2003 edition.
anyways, decision means like you cut off, like literally cut off any possibility of like not doing this thing, if that makes sense. So you literally, it's not even an option. It's not even an option to be like, oh, I'm going to lay in bed for 10 more minutes. It's like, no, my brain, I have completely decided that no, that's not even an option. So that mental energy doesn't get wasted on thinking, well, should I wait? Or maybe I'll just, you know, watch like 4 more YouTube videos before I start reading, or whatever, or before I go to bed. And it's like, but if you already make the decision, man, and obviously I'm not going to get into different like super strong addictions. I was just talking to a kid yesterday about addiction, and that's kind of a whole different story. But we're just talking about things like, oh, I don't want to go to work today, but I told myself I would, and I decided I would, and I decided I was going to do a good job. So there's no other option, you know?
Yeah. And I think just because it gets hard doesn't mean that's time to like pull out and call it quits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think probably one of the best ways for any option that you're going to choose to do is at least set a goal time wise of how long you're going to try to do it for. Because if just when it gets hard and then you're like, oh man, this is like crazy difficult, maybe this isn't the right road I need to go through. I think you start having all these doubts, and pretty soon you've got off that path. You hear me again, Carter?
Sorry, I accidentally.
Did you hang up on us?
Yeah, I accidentally.
I was
We're
like,
good now.
Cool.
What was I saying? Yeah, just because it gets hard doesn't mean that you're supposed to like call it quits. I think it's Denzel Washington that has a cool quote, and he says, ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship, which is really cool. So I think if you set a time limit with yourself, no matter how hard it gets, you kind of push through and try to meet your goal of how long you're going to be doing whatever this is that you decided to do. And then you can evaluate and make that decision. Okay, is this the right path? Is this not the right path? Because chances are you go down and you do something for, let's say, like 2 months. Like, it's not going to have too big of an impact if you then decide it's not the right path and you want to go back to continue on where you were going. But to only do like a diet, let's say, for like 3 days and then decide, no, this is really hard, like it's never going to produce what I want it to produce. You don't know until you give them that time, till you push through all the hard days and you really test yourself, and then you see the results, and then you can make the more clear decision if continuing this way is going to be best or going and trying a different way is going to be better.
Yeah, and like a tangible, like an easy to understand example of that is something I've been finding myself doing more is like people ask me, you know, how do I start going to the gym in the morning? And I'm like, have you ever gone to the gym in the morning? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, if you want to see if it's for you, then go for 4 to 6 weeks to see if it's for you. Don't go for, like you said, you know, 4 or 5 days and be like, all right, going to the gym in the morning is not for me. I was so tired every morning. It's like, well, of course you were. You're not used to it. It's like when we first, at least for me, I can't speak for you two, but when I first got to the MTC, we were waking up at 6:30. I was literally a zombie, like crawling out of bed, like bags under my eyes. But after 4 weeks, I was there for 4 weeks because I was there over Christmas, so they extended it. But after 4 weeks of that, it's not that it was like super easy to wake up early, but it wasn't this drag. And so I tell people that it's like, no, give it an honest shot. If it's something you think you want to do, I recommend like at least 6 weeks, like 6 to 8 weeks. Give it a shot, like a real true shot. Then you can, a quote that my mom would send me over and over in my mission was test, measure, adjust. So test it.
Remember that.
Yeah, test, measure, adjust. I always had it on my board. I still say it in my mind all the time. So test something new, test an idea you had or something, and then measure it, see where it worked and where it didn't, and what you could do better and what you did well, and the progress you've seen or the progress you haven't seen. And then if you need to adjust, make adjustments, and don't feel like super perfectionistic about it. It's like, it's okay to adjust course a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you need to navigate life. And so that principle kind of sums up, I feel like I'm trying to say, is like test, measure, adjust, and keep doing that. And you're going to be doing that for the rest of your freaking life.
Yeah, when I when I'm like thinking about this, I'm like, well, what stops me from going all in, or like what stopped? Because like as I'm listening to you guys, I'm like, this sound like it sounds like way better. Like there's not a lose situation. Like you either go all in and it's not right, and you have more confidence going in another direction, and you learned and you had experiences. But I'm like, I don't always do that. I don't always go all in. I think we can all like think about times in our lives, like things that we're doing now that we're not going all in, whatever it might be.
I'm
And
not going all into my job, I admit.
I'm
Calling funeral
not.
directors, man. Woo. Sheesh.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really going all in on my job either. I haven't been in the seminary building for like a week, so I should probably get back in there. But anyways, like I was just thinking, I think like um for me, as like for a lot of the things that we're talking about, like I'll think of like connections with people or relationships or like job opportunities. And I think when you go all in, you're susceptible to feeling hurt and feeling pain and disappointment. And I think you like, for me at least, a lot of the times I'm like, I don't want to go all in because I don't want to feel that if it doesn't work out. But on the flip side, as I've been thinking about it, because it's like I've been really trying to, like, just as you guys have been talking, like, well, why don't I go all in? But it's like, if you want to have like the success and the happiness and joy that like you obviously really want, you almost kind of have to. And me and Reese, I think we talked about this like maybe like a week ago, but like to be able to feel that, you also have to accept that that could be a possibility.
Yeah, we did.
And
Yeah.
so it's kind of hard because you kind of are like, well, you kind of are accepting that, if you go down this road, if you go down this avenue, like Gubler Swings, you went into it or whatever, it could have gone bankrupt in a week or whatever, and then it's like back to square one, or it could go this way. But you kind of have to accept both of those when you go all in. And then you kind of just trust yourself and trust that whatever happens is going to be for the best. So I guess for you guys, how have you guys like kind of pushed past some of those like thoughts of like, I really don't want to feel these feelings of disappointment, of sorrow, shame, whatever it might be, and push past that so that if this is what's right, you're going to be able to feel that?
I think for me, it always kind of goes back to like my relationship with God, and that no matter what, as long as I'm doing what I should be doing or trying my best to be doing what I should be doing, that it's going to work out the way that it's supposed to work out. And so if I make a decision to start doing something like with Gubler Made Bed Swings, for instance, and if it fails, then it was in God's plan for this to happen. And the next thing that comes around, I'll take that opportunity, and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I just trust that no matter what, I'm going to be going down the right path. Like for instance, how I would decided to serve a mission. Like I always wanted to serve a mission, but I just never knew when would be the right time. Whether it's right after high school, whether it's when I'm 21, what it is. And I was playing rugby in high school, like I mentioned earlier, and um, had all these goals and dreams of going and playing like some of the big league stuff and major rugby, etc. And I had opportunities already where I could be going and playing at these overseas tournaments and with the Utah select team, had a whole bunch of big tours lined up, and I was really excited for that. and we were finishing up. It was the semifinals for state, and we were playing the game. We were playing against Harriman, and like 2 minutes into the game, it's like our seventh game of the day, like one of our last ones. And 2 minutes into the game, I get the ball. I got wide open space between me. Like I just see the try zone on the other side, and I just take off after it. And like just on my second step, I just like heard a snap, and then felt my hamstring curling up, and then I'm just pouncing on one leg, like holy cow! And I toss the ball back to my buddy, and then land on the sideline on my back, and just the very first thought before pain, before anything, was you got to serve a mission, like right now, like put your papers in, like get that process started, like that's your next step is mission, not rugby, nothing sport related right now, it's mission. And then after that thought, then pain and everything started coming to my mind, like holy cow, this actually hurts, and then tears and stuff. But the tears that were coming from my face, I swear was to the answer that I've been praying for, was when should I serve? And it came in the most unique time, like ever, like the middle of a rugby game, middle of an injury. I get the thought that, okay, I'm supposed to serve a mission right now. And so I think kind of that mindset that things can change at any time. And even if it's not your plan and your preference and everything that you've dreamed of to happen, that it's going to turn out better because it's what God's plan is for you. And so where I have these dreams of going and playing rugby, and I always thought that's what I've always wanted to do. I thought that would be the life. I'd have everything figured out. If I could just have that, life would be perfect. And then in a split second, everything changed. And I went and served a mission, and forever grateful for it. Could never do anything that could compare to my time as a missionary. And it set me up for the path that I'm on now. And so you just got to understand that things can change quick, roll with it, be all in for whatever it is. And I promise it'll always turn out better than what you could have dreamed. So I think that's how I deal with it. It's just knowing that it's God's plans, not mine. And as I form to his, I'll be way happier.
Yeah, and I think that's faith, and a branch off of that is trust. And I often think of Hebrews 11. Just Paul explains what faith is beautifully in that chapter in the New Testament. But faith is having a belief in something that's not yet seen, and then that could be the person that you could be. And it's like, if you believe that you could be that, and then if you trust God that he's the one who's going to get you there, and that's going to be a path that you're not, I mean, it's not like you're like, yeah, I want to just my hamstring to just completely curl up at the top of my leg and rip off of its, like, it's like you would never wish for that. But on the flip side, you would never wish for that to be taken away from you. It's like, that's how I am with my car accident. I would never ever wish to be in a head-on collision ever, and I would never wish that upon anybody. And I pray to God every single day that it never happens again. But I wouldn't. It's so funny. It's so paradoxical, life is. But you see on that flip side, it's like, but I'm so glad it happened to me, because it was really difficult, and I shoved down all my feelings throughout high school. And when I got onto the mission, they were all shoved down, all these just really dark emotions from the car accident, when I was 16. And on the mission is when I really started, my heart started to become softened, and I started to feel a lot of these emotions come up that had just been pushed down. And it was really difficult to go through. But it's exactly what you said. It's like, I would not be the person I am today. And I don't mean this in a cliche sense. I really mean it in a deep spiritual growth sense, that I really wouldn't have the same beliefs. I wouldn't have the same confidence in myself. I wouldn't have, on and on and on, a lot of these positive spiritual traits in my eyes. I wouldn't have these if it wasn't for really hard things. And I think there's almost a subjective nature to that. You can look at life in a nihilistic way and think that nothing's happening for a reason, but I really don't recommend that, because if you start looking at life that way, then you're going to lose purpose really fast. See, on the flip side, you can look at life that everything's happening the way it's supposed to, and everything's happening for a reason. And when you start looking at life like that, you're going to start seeing a lot of a lot of instances that you could call coincidence, and you're going to start seeing them virtually almost every day, and sometimes several a day. And it starts to get almost kind of like, whoa, kind of creepy. Like, dang, there is something not like creepy, but I can't think of a word, but just mysterious, I guess, rather. Like, it's just mysterious. Like, whoa, there is something bigger than me out there that maybe has something to do with the way my life is turning out. And I, when I put more trust in that force, in our minds, we configure that as our Heavenly Father, but it's like when I put more trust in that force, then I turn out better. And so I really advise against looking at life as, oh, that's just a coincidence, and I didn't meet this person like for a reason. Like, don't look at life like that. If you start to shift your perception towards, I tore my hamstring for a reason and it's made me the man I am today, life is gonna be very fulfilling, a lot more than it is right now. So it's really
I
good.
I think about the church video called "The Refiner's Fire," and it's
Mm-hmm.
like about that lady that, like, it's just, you just watch it and you're like, she like
So
you
sad.
can't even explain it because it doesn't even
Crazy.
sound real. But she's like she loses like her husband. She has like 7 kids and like loses all of them to cancer, and just like it's just thing after thing after thing of just like just awful, like things that you would never wish upon anybody else. But I love, obviously she's like super emotional, but she's like, the greater amount of sorrow that you have in your life, the greater your ability to feel joy.
Mm-hmm.
And you like hear that and you're like, oh man, that sounds like so good. Like, yeah, that's sweet. But then it's like when you're feeling those times of sorrow, it can be tough to be like, right now my capacity to feel sorrow is growing, but then to kind of put it on the flip side, that because that's happening, then in the future you're going to be able to feel more joy. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting that we've been talking about this, because I've been reading a book by Brad Wilcox called uh, Changed by His Grace, and he references his talk. I can't remember the name of the talk, but it's like the famous one about grace that he gives. And he talks
Yeah.
about how grace is in following Jesus Christ is just really inviting you to live on a higher plane of life. It's just inviting you to become like him. And so one of the questions that he poses is, he's like, what is God trying to make of you right now? And so like I've been trying to ask myself that a lot recently, because like Reese said, like it's pretty easy to just have a nihilistic view of life and just be like, oh yep, nothing is going my way, like life sucks, like this is really hard. It was really interesting. I did this in my prayer a few nights ago, just ask God that question, in the paragraph and bullet points that came to me of what he's trying to make of me were unique and things that I'd never really heard from him before. And so it's just kind of interesting from God, not just this random dude in my room was just talking to me anyways. But
He's
like,
sitting on the side of your bed. He's like,
well, Carter, I think you should really start doing this better. Anyways, it's just like,
You're like, who are you?
I just turn over. I'm like, Jesus, he's here. No, anyways, I'm gonna get struck down. But like, for me, that's been like, kind of like, I don't know, like about you, Owen, but like being home has been really tough. Like, it's not easy. It's been really hard. And so like, for me, I'm trying to find out like why that's been, or like what God's trying to make of me. And so like for me, that's made wanting to go all in a little bit easier, seeing kind of what God is trying to do here, even if it's really hard and it can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah. I think we just see the benefit, even like little instances throughout our lives of the benefits that come from being all in versus being half in. Like Carter, if you're shooting a basketball and you're not confident with that shot, or you hold back at the very last second, then the ball is going to come 2-3 feet short, or your shot's nowhere near as good as if you were all in for that shot, whether you miss or make it. Regardless, you were all in for it. It might have felt good the whole entire time when you left your hand, and it was probably a good look if you went all in. So yeah, there's just a lot to say for being all in versus being halfway. You always get farther, even if it's the wrong direction. Being all in. That's a weird concept, but does that make sense?
Yeah, and
Like,
there's actually I don't know this literature very well, but I know the basics. There's actually biological evidence now coming out that shows that people who are constantly getting out of their comfort zones are switching on new genes that have been dormant in their ancestry for hundreds of years, new
wow.
genes that can produce really magical things in the body. Whether that's
I'm wearing new jeans right now, actually.
Oh, nice, man. Did you see
Brand new from Target.
Dude, Target, man, they got some nice stuff for real though.
Amen.
Like,
Sorry.
man, it's cheap. Yeah, but see, boom, new jeans. But yeah, isn't that crazy? So people who
Whew.
are constantly going off of that path that we were kind of visualizing and trying new things and then coming back, they're literally like there's a spiritual sense to it. You have that you're starting to change, mentally, physically, spiritually, but you're also having these like genetic changes. Like it's that deep, it's literally that deep, and it's this is like actual scientific literature now. This is really cool stuff. Like this is what the religious people have been saying for thousands of years, and now we're starting to see that, wow, it's like it even manifests itself in the physical body. Like genes that have been dormant in the ancestral line forever are all of a sudden switching on. Like genes for growth and repair. A lot of people who come from families with uh, say cancer genes or something like that, or diabetes or metabolic diseases, these genes are turning off and they're starting to have genes because of like health and repair, because when they have these really high aims that they're working towards and they're constantly getting out of their comfort zone, they're so determined to get there that their body's going to assist in that. It's just mind blowing when I heard this. It's so cool to me to see that all four aspects of a human, or I guess if you just want to say mind, body, spirit, they're all intertwined, working together, all going to help us get to the aim, that whatever aim we're aiming at, it's going to get us there.
So I have a question to kind of build upon that and maybe segue a little bit into something else. But I was wondering, Owen, as you've kind of gone all in, whether that's in serving your mission. I know you went all in on your mission and being able to come home and kind of go all in on life. Obviously, you might not feel like you're like all in all the time, but I'm wondering, how has kind of that mentality and aspect affected the relationships that you have, whether it's with your family or with your friends, that kind of that mentality of being all in? How has that kind of leaked in or kind of manifested itself in your friendships or in your family or relationships?
Um, I mean, I think there's just not enough that you can say about the power of being all in, like in every single aspect of your life, like relationships included. Um, I mean, you get so much more out of it as I try to be all in with that, going into any relationship with that goal, whether it's with my brother, my mom, anybody, whatever. If I have that goal of being all in with them, then there's already kind of that like no quit like attitude. Like there's nothing that's going to be able to happen that can destroy this relationship, no matter what kind of argument we get into, anything like that. Like nothing's going to be more important than that desire to make it work, which like stems from being all in and wanting to be all in with that relationship. And really, yeah, that mindset has helped me to just create so many super strong and deep and personal relationships with friends, family, everybody. And I do acquire most of it to rugby and a lot to my mission of just being all in. Because, like in rugby or any contact sport, really any sport, if you're not all in as you're going in to hit somebody or something, then you're going to be the one that ends up getting hurt. Any kind of hesitancy in anything just ends up being a lot more of a weakness than any kind of strength. Um, and with relationships, it's the exact same way. If you go all in, you're confident with it, then you're going to receive better outcomes and results than if you weren't. So for me, being all in has been awesome and got a lot of really strong bonds with a lot of people.
Yeah, that's something that that I admire about you is the the relationships and the strength and unity that you have within in those. And obviously they're not perfect. Like I'm sure like you fight, or I'm sure there's hard times and there's times you, whatever it might be. I mean, everyone has those, but I love, like, for me, it's like a testament to me that you are all in, because you can see that, you know, whether it's poor choices that others make or whether it's, you know, mistakes that you've made, you have that desire to push through, and that you're all in those relationships. And I think that that's manifest in the strength of them. So I just want to say that's something that I really admire about you. And it was like, it's kind of crazy to, you know, be the first missionary to like you're taken away from your family, and then you're in Virginia, and then you're just hanging out with this noob for 6 weeks. And it's like it's kind of crazy for me to be able to see the impact that your family had on you firsthand, like to be able to see like every single day, like that they were out there motivating you and driving you. And I think that for me motivated me to want to go all in and into my family relationships or friendships or whatever it might be, seeing how impactful and meaningful that was to you.
I think before Reiss answers this question too, I have it in my Instagram bio, I'm pretty sure right now. It's Owen Gubler, by the way, for Instagram. But I have wear it on your sleeve in my bio. And I think that's like an all in kind of principle. Like a lot of times people say like wear your heart on your sleeve or whatever. But whatever it is, just wear it on your sleeve. Be all it. Be true to yourself with whatever it is. And if you're going all in, there's nobody that can say anything like negative about that. Like even if you're an awful dancer, but you're all into dancing, like me and Carter got some phenomenal dancing videos from our mission of us just going all out and having a good time. We can put those in the link, right?
Yeah, we can put those down below.
Dude, I've sadly, regretfully, I've seen those. I tried to forget
Regretfully,
them.
what are you talking about?
I've tried to erase them from my memory, but they stuck.
Well, for the benefit of everybody else, we'll put them in the link.
Actually, that would be so funny, dude.
All right.
But like even being a bad dancer and you just like go all in, like nobody can say anything. Like if you got the heart is half of it. It's more than half. And so being all in with whatever you're doing, you're always going to receive better results.
Yeah, and dude, I think that principle about that you just taught about someone being a bad dancer, but they're going all in and you admire that person, that's like a really deep principle, like a psychological phenomena that happens in us when you're at a dance and some kid is in the middle of the circle and he looks like a complete idiot, but he doesn't care and he's just having a good time. You might say to your buddies, you know, at a high school dance, like, yeah, that kid's weird, but you admire him for doing that.
And you kind of wish that 100%. Was you.
Yeah, and you're like, dang, I admire that. And that's the same thing with life. The people we admire, one thing they're doing is they are just living their lives. They're living true to themselves. They're going all in, and we have this natural admiration for them, or resentment. Kind of goes either way. You know, people will either resent you or they'll admire you for doing that. So I think that's not a coincidence that it even manifests itself on the dance floor, you know, when some kid has no idea how to dance, but you're like, man, I just admire that he's doing that. And then one other thing I thought of, that's why I was looking at my phone, I was looking up this quote. It's a Kobe Bryant quote.
Kobe. Yeah,
rest in peace. But I've often referred back to this quote probably for the past 2-ish years. But he's so Carter, was he 17 when he started working out with an NBA team? It's like young.
I would imagine that he was, I mean, I think he was 18 when he got drafted. So I imagine some of the draft process was he was 17.
Like I think he was, there's a few stories of him as a 17-year-old, like in the weight room with NBA players. And that would be like a very, you know, they would test him to be like, dude, you're like a little kid. Like we're the big dogs. But he there's this quote, freaking love it. He says, I realized that intimidation didn't really exist if you were in the right frame of mind. And so the reason this came into my mind is because one reason why people may be afraid to go all in is because they feel intimidated. And so it goes back kind of full circle to where we kind of were beginning. It's mindset. It's a frame of mind. It's the thoughts you're having. And so if you can really get down deep, and we'll have to do a whole podcast, maybe just me and Carter one day, about the subconscious and thoughts, power of thoughts and things like that. But if you can really change your thoughts and your frame of mind, so your state, which would also include emotions, then intimidation just goes out the window. And there might be a little bit
Oh,
left,
yeah.
but you might be bigger than it, you know, and you can crush it, and you're brave enough to move forward. And so I think that's like my final thought with this whole conversation is just that quote, man. It's so fire. Like I gotta get that on my wall or something. But yeah, intimidation doesn't exist if you're in the right frame of mind, and I just think that's a really powerful idea.
Well, I think the person watching that kid on the dance floor going crazy um, is thinking like, man, how did he overcome that wall of just like letting go, not caring at all what anybody else around us thinks, even though he looks like a fool out there having a blast.
Yeah.
But he's having a blast. Like, how come I don't feel that? And I'm acting like cool right now, like by just doing this little shimmy over here with me and my buddies. Like, how do I get past that wall like he did? And I don't know if this is like a prideful quote at all, but I love it and I refer to it and I say it all the time in my head, especially before my mission when I was like a gym addict. And I'd say like lions don't lose sleep over the opinion of sheep, kind of thing. Or like another one, like a lion doesn't turn his head when a small dog barks, like anything like that. Kind of that mindset that like that you're great, like just do your own thing, like have a blast. Because really we all should be like the lions on our own street, you know? Like that we should always kind of view ourselves as like top dog. There's nothing that we can't do. That we should be path setters and trendsetters for our own self, that regardless if anybody ends up following, like live the life that we want to live because that's how we want to live it. Regardless of what other people might think. And you just got to get past that intimidation wall that Reiss was talking about. And once you do that, I think everybody that is able to do that and has gotten past that point can attest that life is so much more joyful. And once other people start catching on that train, like there's times, I'm sure you guys know it, that when you're hanging out with your buddies and everybody's kind of gotten that rhythm of just, hey, you say whatever you want to say, we're all laughing our heads off. It doesn't matter what anybody says now, it's just everything's funny. Like it just kind of starts rolling like that domino effect where everyone
that
ends up
becomes
having
kind of your life.
Yeah, totally.
And I think like who wouldn't want to like live a life like that where you're just kind of, obviously like you need to balance it with a little bit of humility and a little bit of like, you know, maybe a little common sense, but like I think trying to, you know, live your life more so of like freedom and just feeling like confident in who you are and your decisions. Like who wouldn't want, like you look at that and you're like, who wouldn't want that? And I can't get this example out of my head, but ever since Reiss talked about Kobe, I've just been thinking of this example. But I don't know if it was his first or second year, but he got voted to the All-Star game. So like this is the best of the best. This kid's 18, 19 years old. And he's in the locker room. I think this is still when they did East and West. So he's in the West locker room. Jordan's in the East locker room. In the West locker room, they're like, hey, Kobe, like, just so you know, like, don't look Jordan in the eyes. And he's like, what are you talking about? They're like, don't look him in the eyes. Like, you're not supposed to do that. And then Kobe, like, he just thought about that. And he said, little did they know I was the same breed as him. And so he was like, I can look him in the eyes because I'm the same. Like Reiss talked about, he's like, this intimidation thing isn't like isn't like it isn't a thing if you have the right mentality. And so he's like, he just knew that he was the same breed. And so it's kind of like, if you have the right mentality, if you have the right thoughts, if you're, you know, working on, obviously, like, to some extent you got to push yourself to have those thoughts. That's not easy to say I'm the same freaking breed as Michael Jordan as a 19-year-old kid. After this guy, I think he was on the Wizards at this point, so he's like you know, anyways, so he's already got the 6 rings and
like he's finishing up his amazing basketball career, and you're like, I'm like him and I'm a teenager still.
You haven't done anything. And so I think, like, you know, it takes like getting out of your comfort zone to push yourself to do that. But I think when you live with that type of confidence, you see the success that follows. And I obviously, like, he might have not been the best person in the world, him or Michael Jordan, but it's like you look at that as like, maybe young men as members of the church. If you could have that kind of confidence coupled with, developing your Christ-like attributes, then it's like, holy crap, then you get President Nelson, or you get, President Drew Bay, or you get, just like these really high up, amazing leaders that you just would run through a wall for, but you also know like are just down to earth, really good people. And I think like that's kind of the vision that a lot of us have, is we look at these men or women in our lives that have that type of drive and passion, but also that humility and compassion for other people. And it's like that's who I want to be when I grow up. Like you look at the Drew Bays or the Smiths or the Weeds, and you're just like, man, these guys are freaking awesome. Like I just want to be like them. And so I think, for me, that's kind of a big motivation, is like, I want to be on that spiritual level. I want to be on that confidence level. And it takes a little bit of time. It takes confidence and it takes patience. But that's just kind of what comes to my mind as we've been talking about that. It's kind of my closing thoughts.
And you can look him in the eye, and you can look President Dubé in the eye and be like, hey, we're the same breed. Like it's the exact same thing. Like you see these people, just men, but we have the exact same potential. And even going as far as like spiritually and spiritual progress, what God wants us to be, aspiring to be like God. Like, I mean, we're the same breed. It just is as simple as that we have the same genetics to where we can become exactly like who he wants us to become. I don't know.
I didn't even think of that, like you said,
correlates exactly right.
Divinely, we are the same breed as our Heavenly Father, and we can become. Dang, that's Owen's
like
dropped some one-liners here. That's been freaking awesome.
Yeah. No, I think this was fantastic. I really am glad we could get this together. We had those technical difficulties in the beginning, but I'm glad we got them resolved, because yeah, this is just priceless. So yeah, we really, really appreciate you, carving out, an hour and a half, 2 hours to do this with us, Owen. So thank you so much, brother.
Of course, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. And catch us next time. Michael Jordan, episode 23.
Episode 23. LeBron James.
No, Michael Jordan.
But subscribe, follow us on Instagram. We appreciate you. Let us know what you thought. Let us know if there's anything we can help y'all out with. If you have any thoughts on this podcast, let us know what you think. And until next time, we love you guys. So love you. Bye.